Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk. I'm Mike Fitzsimmons, and we're talking politics today. In fact, we're talking Spokane County Commissioner politics with a candidate for the position number 2, district number 2. She is the current incumbent, Mary Kuney. Mary, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Let's first of all, just so that voters understand where they are in which district, because some districts, the district idea is a relatively new idea anyway in the county. But what is District 2? What is the territory that you represent?
So District 2 is you follow the state, you go to the state line, you follow the Spokane River around to Field, and then you go up the South Hill down to 195, and you follow that to the Whitman County line. So it's really that big corner of southeast Spokane County. And for us, the district is in the primary, and so I've already out of the district, and now it's a general election is for the entire county. So the entire county will vote on all three of us.
That's everybody. That's right. And that being the case, but your district has it's territorially different in makeup, not quite as urban as the whole county wide, and a lot of rural concerns and agricultural and that sort of thing. So there's many things you have to be sensitive to.
Yes, no, you very much need to. So, I mean, the urban part of it is the city of Spokane Valley and some of the South Hill with the city of Spokane, but you go all the way to Fairfield, and so I'm talking to the superintendent down at Liberty School District and Freeman School District to see what their needs are down there. And then it is in the agricultural area, we have a lot of dirt roads in that area, and so it's talking to those farmers to see what are their needs. And so, it's being cognizant of that and helping them with, we actually got a road stabilization program put together for them because we need to make sure that they're able to get their goods to market.
Just as a way of backgrounding a little bit what this election is about, Commissioner, you were appointed in
Correct.
2018.
17.
17. You've served since that time.
Correct.
But that isn't a full term. We get to 20, and that's a partial term. That's not a full term. And so you must run for a permanent position, and at the same time, you get to run 2 years hence because we're going to a 5-commissioner system.
Yes. So it's
you've been running every couple of years.
It's kind of, as someone says, the short straw that I got. So October of 17 was when I was appointed, and then had to run in 18 because you have to run in the next available general election. And from that point, then you run to finish the rest of the term, which this is the finish of that term. And then, yes, with the 5-commissioner bill being held up by the state Supreme Court, then we will be running in 2022.
And as we all know, this is the most unusual election series we've ever seen, given the fact that we have so many collateral issues to have to deal with that aren't just general to the politics of the issue, of the times rather. We have COVID, and COVID is certainly on the ballot as well. Let's take a look at how the effect has been on Spokane County. No one saw this coming, and when it came quickly and delivered a serious punch, and it hasn't stopped punching since. So the question is, what effect on Spokane County has COVID-19 had, and what are your solutions, if you will, as to how to deal with this until it goes away and thereafter?
Yeah, well, I think that when COVID hit Spokane County, we didn't think that it was going to go on as long as it has. I mean, I think when we all got the initial shutdown, 2-3 weeks, we thought that was going to be sufficient, and then start to open back up. Obviously, the governor has chosen to open us up much more slowly. Masks weren't asked to be required till 6 weeks later. I truly feel like if we would have been able to open up and wear masks and just try to keep the spread down, we'd be in a much better situation at this point in time. But we're here, and it's not going away. We're seeing it continue as we see, right now we're seeing numbers increase because of the Labor Day weekend. So we know those things are going to continue to happen, but we need to be responsible, we need to be reactive, and we need to keep our community safe. And so Spokane County got CARES dollars directly from the federal government. We are one of 5 entities across the state that did. And so we have been very cognizant with those CARES dollars as to how we spend them. We just got $11.5 million out to small businesses and to nonprofits here just 2 weeks ago. So we're just going to see that effect in our economy to help those small businesses survive this, because it isn't going away, and we need to help them.
Those dollars were not in the county's coffers, however, they were spent. And we have had a sales tax revenue decline as a result of all of this. And a lot of folks are still out of work. A lot of folks are not making incomes. They're dependent upon government assistance to some degree. And the situation is pretty tenuous at the present time. Eventually, the county is going to have to try to figure out how to bridge the gap, budgetarily speaking, so that things like public safety and roads and such can be funded as they had been in the past. And you're going to have to ask a public that doesn't have very much money to chip in to help out. How's that going to work out?
Well, the ways that we can do that is get people back to work. So that way they're actually spending money in the economy to then help drive sales tax, because that's one of our revenue drivers is that sales tax.
But your governor is keeping the thumb on the scale, as it were, and preventing you from doing that. So therein lies the rub, huh?
Yeah, no, it's true. The one thing the county can do is a 1% property tax increase that we've done the last couple of years, but that's only about a $500,000 add to our budget, which is not enough. I mean, we're going to see millions of dollars down in our budget this year. CARES dollars cannot be used for lost revenue. So, I mean, it can only be there to help fund. So, a couple of the other things that we're really doing that to help our community, because we know the need's going to be there, is we just added another $4.4 million to the food bank. We want to help make sure that they're sustained, so that way food security in our community is first and foremost for people.
Was there any thought that perhaps the federal government might have additional dollars coming down the pipeline? And at the moment, it appears that the Congress is in stalemate, and whether that happens before the election or at all is up in the air.
Yeah, no, it's very true. What we heard about a month and a half ago from our National Association of Counties was that there was talk of extending the deadline to use our CARES dollars. So December 31st is our deadline right now. If we could extend that into next year, then we'd be able to help sustain some of those activities that we need to sustain for our community. But there's talk that they wouldn't be giving out any more dollars. So then it's that, conundrum of, keeping some of those funds back and not spending them in case, after the election, that there's the deadline is extended. And so we'll have a plan in place that we don't want to send any money back to the federal government. So we'll have a plan to use those CARES dollars and use them wisely.
There are additional dollars still available.
So we
They
currently
haven't been spent, but that may be all there is.
Right, correct. So
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other issues that are occurring. We have a health district, and some of your constituents are concerned that there's a little too much power in Dr. Lutz, and that we ought not to turn our entire operation over to an unelected individual. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm actually vice chair of the health board right now, so very involved in those discussions and those conversations. And state law allows Dr. Lutz to have those abilities. I mean, the RCWs allow him to have that ability. What we see is happening, though, is that the state is coming down with their regulations from the State Department of Health and the governor's office, and that we can be more restrictive, but we cannot be less restrictive than those guidelines that they're sending down. And so there lies a little bit of the quandary as we're trying to look at getting schools open. There's a carve out for early learners. So how do we get those early learners back, without having to meet the metrics that the state has put upon us? So those are some of the things that we're looking at doing. We're looking at petitioning to the governor's office and to the State Department of Health, ways to get youth sports back. So let's do 3-on-3 basketball, but let's do it half court. Let's do it with no visitors there, but let's get kids back. I am very concerned. When COVID started, we were it was spring, so days were starting to get longer, and we came through summer, people could get outside and do things. We're starting to hit the point now, it's fall. Days are getting shorter. So I'm concerned about the mental health of all of our citizens at this point in time. A lot of people have the seasonal, disorder. And so as we start to see that happen, I'm very concerned about the mental health side that we're going to start to see. So when I look at COVID, I look at it from, we've got the keeping our community safe and healthy, we've got the mental health side of it, and then we have the economic side of it. And so that's...
The economic side of it, the commissioners recently actually cut back on the amount of investment in county health, did they not? Am I correct about that?
So over the course of when I was appointed in 2017, there was some funding cut that happened at that point in time. That happened, the outside agencies were determined prior to me being commissioner. And so, when the budget was approved, there was a cut. Since I've been on the board, we've held that for the last 2 years. And my peers on the Health District Board know I'm committed. And so that's why they elected me to be the vice chair, and I'll be chair next year, barring the election. And so, with our CARES dollars, we have committed over $8 million to the Health District. So to ensure that we are doing what we need to do to keep our community safe. Now, as we look at the future budget, which will be coming up with the Health District, we have, the city of Spokane has 3 seats at the table. The city of Spokane Valley has 2 seats at the table. The small cities have 1 seat at the table, but none of them are contributing. So we're letting them help drive and make decisions without having to contribute to that. So that's something that we're going to have to look at over the course of the next year.
In your opinion, is the health district sufficiently funded at the present time to do the things that you're concerned about, particularly the non-COVID, but the consequences of COVID, which you mentioned as mental health issues and such? Are those areas sufficiently covered?
I don't know that I would say that they're sufficiently covered, but as a government entity, we don't have endless revenues, and so it's still trying to prioritize the revenues that we have within Spokane County, because that is a general fund activity. And so how do we, look at, especially in a state of declining revenues that we're going to see, how do we ensure? And so we have, I've committed that I don't want to cut the funding any further, and I'm hoping again that our CARES dollars will be extended so we can use those funds for the health district. Otherwise, we're going to have to look at having the cities start to think about contributing, because they're getting a huge benefit from the health district. And the mandated services that we have to do as the county, no, there's not sufficient funds to do all that. And so we do have to look at it, and I think COVID has certainly put a spotlight on public health. And something that we need to look at.
In any economic entity, a business, a government agency, whatever it happens to be, labor costs are the single highest investment one must make to operate. And what about that with respect to Spokane County? There are programs in place for early retirements and that sort of thing. How well is that going? How much does that save? And what would your prediction and recommendation be toward the future relative to that?
So yes, so we instituted an early retirement policy. So that is effective everybody has to turn in their notice by the end of September. So we don't know what the true effect of that is going to be at this point in time. I know we have over 40 employees that have chosen so far to do that. And they have once they turn in their notice, they have from then till the end of January to actually retire. And so that's where we're hoping to have some of those savings come from, is through not, filling all those positions, as well as then as you have, people that are at the top of the pay scale, retire, then you're filling with people that are at a lower point in the pay scale. So that's where we're hoping to get some of that savings, from the early retirement.
But the downside of that is that some of your most experienced and talented employees who are paid in the higher echelons will not be available to you anymore. So there is a win-lose situation associated with that.
No, it's very true. I mean, there is a lot of knowledge and history that is going to be leaving Spokane County here soon. But at Spokane County, we knew that that was coming. We've been really trying to, do leadership training to train up the staff, to be able to replace those positions, which has been so important because we've known over the last several years that there's kind of this retirement that was going to be happening, and so we've been planning.
Let's talk about some other things other than that. Let's talk about roads. You mentioned in the introductory part of our discussion that you represent a district that has an awful lot of gravel roads and dirt roads and that sort of thing. That means dust. That means all kinds of environmental particulates and that sort of thing to deal with. But also, given the situation that we are not able to fund as usual, the regular road maintenance activities that would typically take place, and now are coming up to snow removal soon and what have you, will be impacted by this process. What is your recommendation that the county, the strategy the county would adopt for that?
So no, it's going to be very true. We're seeing definitely a decrease in sales gas tax revenue. So we're going to see that happen at the county level as well. One of the things that I worked hard on was a road stabilization project. So we did 10 projects across the county. Where it's a solution that you put down on the road so that way it keeps the dust down, it keeps it from washboarding, because that was one of the huge issues that I heard. Now, my personal background is my husband is actually Max Kuney with Kuney Construction, and they build bridges and work on highways. And so I have a background that has been instrumental in helping county roads. And so, we've had some bridges come in that need to be repaired in some outlying areas of our county in my district that, initially they would come and say, oh, it's going to cost $1 million to do this. And I'm like, I don't think so. So let's relook at that. Let's rethink of it. Let's look at it from this perspective. And we were able to get it down to $300,000 to repair that bridge, which then allowed for the economic activity because it was for the farmers down there. I think, one of the things we did last year, and I think we're going to have to take another look at, is we did the road shift, where we actually shifted this bank capacity that we have in the county road fund into the general fund. But for the first time ever, we shifted $3 million of that back into the road fund. And so that's the first time that that's ever happened. And that's one of the ways that we can help get those extra dollars back into the road fund to help mitigate that loss that we're going to have.
Public safety. Big responsibility
Yes.
for any governmental entity, and the county commissioners in Spokane are no exception. What about the funding for police officers? We have long had in Spokane County one of the lowest officer per thousand ratios of communities of like size in the nation. It's always been a concern that Sheriff Knezovich has mentioned numerous times, and there never seems to be a solution to that, but now it's even more exacerbated by current conditions. What about that?
Correct. So we have worked very hard to get the sheriff's office funded, and I will tell you that we have done that. Do we have all the officers, all the deputies on the streets that we want? No. But in the confines, we have actually been able to get what we call our pooled positions funded, so that way then they can get through the training and get onto our streets. And so we've worked very hard on that. Sheriff Ozzie has actually endorsed me because he knows that I will work hard to keep and make sure that the sheriff's office is funded. We are taking care of their equipment needs, their car needs. I mean, all those things are very important. It's not just the deputy, but they have to have everything they need to do their job and do it safe for themselves and for our community. And we are working very hard to do that and have been able to do that.
Let's take a look then also at incarceration. The issue of whether or not to expand the jail, build a new one, whatever, has been around now, I think, 20-some years, perhaps even longer than that. There have been a number of proposals as to what to do about this. And, of course, in each case, you go to the public to do that because the county just simply couldn't underwrite it on its own, even in the best of times.
Correct.
And so here we are now in the worst of times, so to speak, and we still have the problem. The county jail has become perhaps the largest mental health repository in the entire region. And somehow or other there's a disconnect with respect to what jails are supposed to be. How do we get this done? Because it's a problem that continues to grow, and if unserviced is going to be a very serious and immensely expensive proposition in the future.
Mm-hmm. No, very true. So there are definitely things that we're doing right now to try to counter that. So we have a new mental health crisis stabilization center that will be coming online June of 2021. So that's going to provide the ability for a diversion. Instead of a police officer taking a person to jail, they can divert them to this mental health crisis stabilization center so they can get services to get them the help that they need. We also have co-deployed police officers with mental health counselors. So that way, when they go out to a call, they can actually de-escalate the situation so nobody gets arrested, and to try to provide service opportunities for these people. So those are some of the things that we're already doing right now. Now, in regards to a new jail, I say it's a new facility. Our jail is a very high security jail. What we need is a new facility that's going to be more state of the art to be able to help look at different levels of incarceration. So that way, it's not a maximum security or Geiger wears a lower security, but we need to look at the whole gamut of that. So, high, medium, and low. We need to look at areas that we can do programming. Right now in our downtown jail, there's no room for programming. And that's going to be key to, have people not be coming back into the system. And so I look at it as we're trying to figure out what a new facility is going to look like, because it has to be different. It's not going to be the same. We got to look at it so we can get people, that are in there out and not have them coming back into the system. And to me, that's programming and working with them.
But ultimately, you're going to have public endorsement of the project. And in the past, one of the reasons why we've been kicking this issue around for 20-some years is basically the public has said, no, I don't want to fund that. I don't want to go. I don't want you charging me for a jail. And, how are you going to sell that? I mean, I understand the multifaceted facility that you're talking about, and that makes perfectly good sense, because that's not a 21st century incarceration environment at all. Yeah. And it's certainly not even consistent with the current theories of rehabilitation and that sort of thing that exists in the jurisprudence process. So still, though, it's going to be an expensive proposition, and still you're going to have to convince the public. How do you do that?
Because you have to be smart about it, and you have to be transparent. You have to show them that the cost of putting that facility online and the savings that you're going to have going down the future of people not recurring themselves into the system is going to save them money. And so, I mean, it's like, but those are the things that we're still working through. But for us to sell it to the public, it's not selling them something. It's showing them that this is the need that we have. This is what's going to be better for our community. And this is what's going to save money in the long run.
In the past, part of the problem has been that the actual product you were seeking the public to underwrite wasn't clear in their own minds. It was
Correct.
Sort of nebulous. Well, we need to have this much capacity or whatever. You're going to have to be crystal clear about this. You're going to have to be able to let them walk around and kick all the tires.
Exactly. And there is several groups around that are working very hard on this. We've done some research, and there's varying opinions on it. And so, in order for us to really get to the point where we can take it to the public, we have to have all those people sit down at the table and really come up with what that solution is that we can all agree is going to be the right solution for our community for the future.
Economic development. In a situation, a condition such as the COVID-19 issues associated with the county, economic development has to take a new tact because clearly with half the county basically shut down and businesses wondering whether or not they'll even exist in the future, the idea of going out and saying, come open a business in Spokane County is a lot less attractive than it used to be. But that's true everywhere in the country, Correct. Obviously. So what has changed with respect to that, and what do you propose as a commissioner in the coming years to do to be able to rehabilitate that process?
Well, the biggest industry that's been hit the hardest has been our hospitality industry. So our restaurants, our hotels, our arena, we can't get up and running. It's like we may not get anyone into our arena until June of 2021. That's a big hit to our downtown economy, and so that's one of the biggest ones that we're really looking at right now. Construction's back online. There's a lot of businesses that are back online, and so we just need to continue to support them to keep them safe, so they can stay there. But hospitality is really the one that's kind of the short term industry that we really need to work through with COVID. And beyond that, we're continuing our economic development strategies through our public development authorities from the West Plains and our Northeast PDA to continue to look at businesses and show them what's happening in Spokane. We're seeing a change come with employees who are now working from home. So now it's not just, you don't have to have the business come, but you can have employees come, and now they're working remotely. So they're seeing that Spokane's a great opportunity to come. They want to be able to go hiking and do all those things. And so we're seeing an insurgence of people wanting to move to Spokane and come to Spokane even during this pandemic for those reasons.
So we're also seeing brick and mortar businesses, traditional brick and mortar businesses, becoming online businesses to the degree that they don't need the real estate anymore. Yeah. And that's not going to be just a temporary thing as a result of COVID. That is a new trend that will unfold for years to come. And that means that the way in which you attract business as such is going to be completely different.
It's going to look very different. And so that's why I say we've got to look at how that shift is going to happen, because it truly is happening. I have a daughter who's 26 over in Seattle, works for an engineering firm that they are now going to be working permanently from home. They have a 4-story building in Bellevue that they're going to rent out the three of the floors and just keep one floor for common areas for, conference rooms, some cubicles, printers, plotters. So it's going to look very different. And I think we've got to start to just kind of adjust to what that's going to be. And again, how do we do that and help still continue to drive our economic development?
So the challenges for a county commissioner now and in the future are changing rather dramatically in terms of their definition.
Yes.
I mean, this was a 3-commissioner system established clear back in the 19th century, designed to be basically an agrarian county, largely agricultural. Things have changed dramatically. Mm-hmm. It's there's a huge urban influence now. There are forces that are from around the region, across the country, even globally, that are having an impact on how Spokane County does business, how it grows, how it manages that process and all. So in terms of the long term, are we ready for this?
I think we are. I think we're adjusting. I think we've been looking ahead. As you know, we'll have 5 commissioners in 2022 will be elected, and so
what do you think of that?
That will start in 2023.
What do you think of that process? Is that a good thing?
I have said, and I will say again, I think it's not a good form of government. So you're going to have 5 commissioners, each by district only, for both the primary and the general. So you represent just 20% of the people. So land use issues, so if I'm a citizen, I can only talk to 1 commissioner out of 5 to say, I don't like what's happening with this apartment complex coming in. You could have commissioners gang up and say, okay, we're going to put it all in your area because we don't like you. I mean, there's a lot. I'm concerned about budgets. How do you get budgets approved when each district is representing just 20%? And I want all the sheriff's deputies to make sure they're patrolling heavily in my area. It's going to be a complete change, because we don't have anyone who's going to be elected countywide to kind of help be that guiding post. Now, do I think the people that will get elected, some of them will really, truly care about the entire county and be looking out for the entire county. But some of them are going to be looking at that this is their job, and they're just going to look at it for themselves. So that's what concerns me about 5 commissioners by district only, and not having had the citizens really talk about what form of government they really wanted.
Why was a county council with a county executive not looked at as an alternative? Because it seems to me that most counties that have gone from the 3-commissioner model have gone that direction, not this direction. Why not?
I can't tell you that. That was a legislative decision. And that was part of why, there was a lawsuit that went all the way to the state Supreme Court because it was not a uniform form of government. And so the choice is for the citizens to actually look at doing a freeholder process, and they can petition for that. The commissioners, it's something we're discussing. There's no commitment yet, but we could choose to put a freeholder process on the ballot.
So tell our audience why you are the one that they should keep in the existing District 2 seat, and basically put their money on, because 2 years from now you'll be running as a 105, I presume, if you decide to continue.
Correct.
Why you? What sets you apart?
I think what sets me apart is my experience. So I'm a former state auditor. I'm a CPA, audited, public and private entities prior to being a state auditor. So as a state auditor, you audit cities, counties, and school districts. And with that, I was actually the auditor in charge for Spokane County 2 of those years. So it gives you a unique perspective to see how the financial side of it works, how the laws and regulations side of it works. And so it's been very good to come in as a commissioner and having that experience and that background. Since being commissioner, the thing that people know about me is I'm collaborative. And it's having that ability to bring people together, to have that discussion, to really listen, and to find the solutions that we can really make things and work and make a difference at. So I would say it's common sense leadership. It's finding solutions through collaboration. And
Now, during your experiences as a auditor, governmental entities was part of what you audited.
Correct.
So you have a pretty good idea of comparative economics with respect to these and the governing procedures and strategies that were at work, and how that played out economically speaking, or in terms of the income and outflow and that sort of thing.
Correct. And you really had a chance to see what worked and what didn't in different entities. And so that's part of what I bring. And you had a chance to see and talk to elected officials. So you got a chance to really see who was a good one and who wasn't. And so taking all of that experience to say, I want to be a really great elected official, and I want to be here for the people, I want to be here for businesses, and I want to do what's right for our community.
How do people contact you and your campaign to learn more and perhaps participate, even though time is running out? We're about a month away,
Yes.
A little more than a month away from the election, but there's lots still to be done.
There is. So they can go to electmarykuney.com on the website, and you can get all the information you need there. But it's just, it's telling people, it's feeling, good about supporting me and telling people that they need to get out and they need to vote. This is going to be an important year. We're going to see, record turnout from both sides. And that's where, as county commissioner, I'm here for the people and for the businesses. It's not an either or proposition. I'm on the Hutton Settlement Board, have been for 10 years. I care about the youth of our community. I care about our community. I care about our businesses. I'm in a family business. So we need to do what's right for everybody.
We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. She is Mary Kuney. She is the incumbent County Commissioner District number 2, running for re-election. That's Let's Talk for this session. I'm Mike Fitzsimmons. Thanks for joining us.